Please remember to subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell to be notified of new videos and live streams.
الله ربي والإسلام ديني ومحمدا رسول الله ويقيني.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الأمين وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبع هداهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وبعد. Alhamdulillah for allowing us together in His house in continuation of the tafaqquh fi din, which is seeking an understanding of this religion in order that we may be able to live according to the laws and regulations of this religion. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He will make it khalisan li wajhi al-kareem, sincere for His divine presence and for Him and Him alone, and that it will be counted from among the book of our good deeds and on the scale of our good deeds on the Day of Judgment. Ameen. Tonight, inshallah, we continue in the Tahara, or in the Tayammum, and we talked about, this is Hadith number 91 from the Kitab al-Mubarak, Muwatta, the chapter of Tahara. And we talked about how the story of how Tayammum was legislated and the story concerning the loss of the necklace of Aisha radiallahu anha and how it led to the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is Tayammum. Now this, inherent within this issue or within this topic, is the issue of the person who does not find either water to do their wudu or earth to do their tayammum. So we call this faqid al-tahurain, the one who does the absence of the two cleansing properties. What happens? This is by and large, for the most part, a hypothetical situation. Because even though we are able to imagine the absence of water, it is very difficult indeed to be in an area or to be in a situation where we cannot do tayammum. However, an example of this could be a person who is restrained. For whatever reason, they are restrained, they are unable to use water even if it's present. Neither are they able to use dirt even if it is present because they are restrained. Or let us say a person is escaping from a wild animal. They're hiking, see a snake. In Australia, snakes, huh? So we climb up the tree. Maybe they can go up trees, isn't it? Or they do something. They run away and they're in a situation where the salat time is entered and they're unable to do wudu or tahara or whatever it may be. So a hypothetical situation. But nevertheless, in this issue there is fiqh. In this issue there is legal reasoning that will be very useful in guiding our thought processes in general. One thing about legal reasoning, the qawa'id al-fiqhiyya, the legal maxims and usul al-fiqh, the laws of jurisprudence, they also serve as cognitive tools. So they are instruments that guide our thinking process, whether it is in the search of istinbat al-ahkam, whether it is in the application of deriving rulings, or just in general, how do you reason based on principles of Islamic thought. Okay. So hopefully we will be able to not only learn the ahkam of these different situations, but also the reasoning processes that are employed. Okay. So of this issue, the issue now is a person who is unable to use water, or the absence of water, or the person who is unable to use turab, or the substance for tahara. What do? And before we continue, you should know that the asl, the origin of tayammum is to use anything that is from the earth. Whether it is dirt, whether it is grass, whether it is sand, whether it is, whatever things there are, leaves, bark of trees, all of this is permitted from tayammum as it grows from the earth. There is difference of opinion whether or not you can use it after it has been subject to manufacturing. So, metal that has been manufactured into steel, for example, difference of opinion. Okay? Or wood that has been transformed into tiles, difference of opinion, for example. But on top of that is the dust. And dust is the wind blowing particles of the earth that then rest on different surfaces. Just like the windowsills we see, that if you wipe it, you see all this dust, yeah? Or if you go, at least in my car, which is kids, when you go like this, and all the dust comes up, then that is also permissible as well, okay? Because that is from the earth. However, let us say you are in a controlled environment. So you are in that surgery and there's a very dust adverse areas, right? They're very particular. In those areas where there's no dust, or minimal dust, if you will, then you will not be able to do tayammum in those areas. So you'd have to go outside and find something suitable. Okay, so these are the substance of tayammum. All right, now the four views. The four views regarding the person who is either does not find the two cleaning substances or is unable to use it. So let's say you have water, but you are unable to use it due to a disease, or it will exacerbate a particular illness, whatever, or it is in limited quantity that you are either unable to complete your wudu with it, right? Or that you will need it for survival. Okay. As such, it is, although it is water, although it is qualifies for as a tathir, as a cleansing property, but because of other circumstances, you are unable to use it. All right. So first position, and that is the position of Imam Malik, and the main position of the Maliki school is that you do not have to pray because you do not pay it back. You do not have to pray it, and you do not have to pay it back. Qada. Qada is when? Let me ask you, when do you do qada? Just to double check if you guys are switched on. When do you do qada? Miss the prayer, but when? When do you miss it? No. Let's say you miss jama'ah. Do you do qada? Why not? Just so that you understand, it's not a trick question. When the time has passed, you cannot do qada while the time is in. Remember that. There's no such thing as qada while the time is in. We call that ada, performing it. Qada is to pay it back. Ada is to perform it. Okay? Ada happens within its time. Qada happens retrospectively. Yeah. After the time has passed. Okay? So meaning that within the time, you are unable to find water, unable to do tayammum, and you've searched, and the time lapses. So the first position is that you do not have to pray. Why? How do they? Because it sounds weird, right? Sounds just like a strange position. But remember, all of them base it on hadith, right? Or base it on on evidence. What is the evidence? The evidence is فيما أخرجه الشيخان بخاري مسلم الترمذي أبي داود والنسائي عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يقبل الله صلاة أحدكم إذا أحدث حتى يتوضأ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not accept the salat of any person إذا أحدث, if he has entered into a state of non-purity, until they take wudu. Meaning that you need to have wudu for salat. Yeah? And here Allah won't accept it if there's no wudu, okay? No tahara. And tayammum is the same, right? وفيما أخرجه إمام مسلم عن أبي هريرة كذلك عن ابن عمر عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول لا تقبل الصلاة بغير طهور ولا صدقة بغلول. That Allah does that, the salat is not accepted without tahara. Just like sadaqah is not accepted when it comes from the spoils of war before they have been properly divided. That is beside the point, don't need to explain that. The point is that it is not accepted without tahara. So their argument is this, is that one of the conditions for salat is that you have to be in a state of tahara. And once a person is in a position that they are unable to do tahara, either wudu or non-water, tayammum, so the obligation is no longer present. So the obligation is no longer there to begin with. Because it is obligatory when you meet these conditions. You guys following me? Those conditions are no longer there. It's not. So, if it is not accepted, then you don't have to do it. And because you are now exempted from salat under such circumstances, you do, and through a valid exemption, then you do not have to pay it back. Because you're no longer required to begin with. Right? This is one position. Okay? So they have evidence to support their position. Number two, that a person does not have to pray it in the time because they don't qualify to pray it. Okay? But they have to pay it back if and when they find that which gives them tahara, water or non-water, yeah? So let us say the time has lapsed, a significant time has lapsed, they have been restrained for 1 month, then they do not have to pay it back. But within reasonable timing, at your own discretion, that let us say that you miss dhuhr, but then maghrib comes and you have found water. Then you would take your wudu and you would do qada for your dhuhr and qada for your asr. Okay? So the difference between this second position and the first position is that the first position you do not have to do qada. Whereas in this one you do not have to do it at the time, but you have to do qada. Why? They reference the same evidence. The same evidence of that لا تقبل الصلاة بغير طهور, that salat is not accepted without tahur. لا يقبل الله صلاة أحدكم إذا أهدى حتى يتوضأ. The same hadith they reference. However, in preservation of the sanctity of salat, they have legislated qada. Right? And they also say this. There is a legal principle which states what is permissible due to a valid excuse is retracted once the exception is no longer valid. What is permissible due to a valid excuse is no longer permissible when that excuse is no longer valid. This is the position of the Hanafi. ما زال بعذر بطل بزواله. Right? So meaning that at the time of dhuhr, we'll take dhuhr as the example, at the time of dhuhr you cannot find water, you cannot find tayammum for whatever reason. But afterwards, you find it. As soon as you have found, so meaning that in that zuhur time, you were excused. Later, outside of zuhur, you find the substance to do wudu. Now you are in a situation where you are no longer permitted you are no longer excused from salat. And when that happens, the original excuse is no longer valid. So you have to pay it back. Right? So it was permissible to miss it, praying it in its time. But now you have found the water, you must pay it back. But let us say an extended period passes, an extended period, inshallah, khair. Right? Like I said, a person is a prisoner and restrained for a significant amount of time. They wouldn't have to pay back a month's worth of salat. All right, this is the position of the Hanafis, by the way, the Hanafi school. The third position is that you pray according to your situation. And you pay it back once you are able to, once you find the necessary components. Okay? So meaning, Zuhur is entered, you do not have wudu, cannot do tayammum. You still pray. You say you are restrained, you pray with your eyes, you pray however you can. Okay? You pray. And later, once you are in a state of capacity, you then pay back what you missed. Now, the reason they base this on, this is the position of the Shafi'is. This is the position of the Shafi'is. Some of the Hanbalis and Ibn Qasim from the Malikis. And they base it on the hadith narrated by Bukhari and Abi Hurairah radiyallahu anhu أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال دعوني ما تركتكم إنما حلك من كان قبلكم بسؤالهم واختلافهم على أنبيائهم فإذا نهيتكم عن شيء فاجتنبوه وإذا أمرتكم بأمر فأتوا منه ما استطعتم. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that leave me as I have left you. Verily, those from before you were destroyed and perished due to their excessive questioning of their prophets and departure from their prophets' guide. There are so many questions. And because there are so many questions, they had so many rules, and then they no longer practice those, the guidance that has been set. That was their reason. If I prohibit you from something, then do not do it. Then refrain from it. And if I command you to do something, then do of it what you are capable. So here they say, do of it what you are capable. And this, so I'll explain it. There is also a legal maxim that al-maysur la yasqutu bil-ma'sur. That which is easy is not removed or uplifted, like no longer necessary, due to something that is difficult. That which is easy, that which you are capable of doing, is not lifted. That means you still have to do it, even if there is difficult parts. Why? Okay, how does that apply? Salat is an ibadah that comprises components. It has tahara, okay? So you have to be in a state of tahara, that's one component. You have your salat component, okay, your actual prayer. You have your sitr al-awra, that you, what do you call this? Must cover your awra. You have the ittijah al-qibla, to face the qibla. These are conditions for salat, okay? For the validity of salat. Ittijah al-qibla, to face the qibla, best of your knowledge, right? These are all conditions of salat. Now, the Prophet has commanded us to do all these things. This is all part of salat. So let us say some of these components are difficult. In this case, there is no water and there is no tayammum, right? You're unable. So this difficulty does not lift the obligation to do the remaining components. Yeah? Following me? So that means you still pray, even though you don't have wudu. You still pray, even if you cannot cover your awrah. And that is in the books of fiqh. You still pray, even if you cannot cover your awrah. You still pray, even if you do not know where the qibla is. Yeah? So this is a principle as well. And so the question is this, by the way, and this is in the books of fiqh. How do you pray if you are, for whatever reason, somebody assaulted you and robbed you of all your clothes? So you are now in a situation where you are unable to cover yourself and there is no help nearby, right? They abandoned you in the bush or wherever it is, on the side of the road, you do not know anything. These are hypotheticals, but let us say. So how do you pray? For the men, you would squat down, sit down, so you cross your legs so you cover your privates. The sisters would do the same and cover their privates. Okay? Allah al-Musta'an. May Allah protect us from such a state. But you would still pray in the time. All right. All right. That is the third position. And whose position is this, by the way? This is the position of who? Which? The Shafi'is, that's right. And Ibn Qasim from the Malikis. The fourth position, which is the main position of the Hanbalis, is that you pray in the same state, in whatever condition you find yourself, and you do not have to pay it back. So the difference between this and the previous one is that in the third view is you have to pay it back when you are when you reach the situation. But in this one, you do not have to pay it back. So let's say Zuhur. Zuhur is there, and you are unable to have tahara, right, for whatever reason. So you still pray. Now Asr has entered, and then Zuhur has lapsed. The time is exited. Now it is Asr time, and you find water. So this position is you do not have to pay back your Zuhur. Why? Because you performed the Dhuhr according to the best of your capacity and given the circumstances at the time. And you have thus delivered on your obligation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you are no longer in full. You have done it in full because you are also not expected to do that which is beyond your capacity. So given the limits of your capacity at the time, you performed it, and as such, that debt to Allah is no longer there. It's been paid in full. So even though later you find water, you do not have to pay it back because that was the circumstances then. These are the circumstances now. So if you have water, by the way, just a quick question. If you have water, are you allowed to do tayammum? If you have water and you are capable of using it, are you allowed to do tayammum? So if there's water and you are able to use it, all right? Are you permitted to do tayammum, non-water? You are not. Whosoever does that has not prayed. Their prayer is invalid. Because the tayammum is a replacement for water in the event that water cannot be procured or is unable to be used. Okay? So meaning if that water is available and you are capable of doing it, you are not permitted, you are no longer qualified. Sort of like this. If you are not a traveler, are you allowed to qasr your salat? No, you're not allowed to combine if you're not a traveler. Only when you're traveling. So only when you meet the conditions, are you valid? Is it valid? Okay, simple thing, inshallah. All right. Now, from these views, the one that appears to be the most valid is the last view. Number 4. That seems to be, in terms of the fiqh, the strongest position. However, the third position is the most cautious. So who remembers what the third position is? You do it, whatever state you are, and then you pay it back. That is the best. Why? Because salat, by doing that, you have definitely ensured that you have performed your duty. Definitely ensured, no doubt. All right? So as such, it is the most careful position. In terms of the most representative of Islamic thought, the last perhaps. Arguably, all of them have their evidence. But let us say a person goes by the first view. What was the first view? You don't have to do it and you don't have to pay it back. You're no longer obligated at all in this regard. So if a person doesn't do, if a person adopts that position, are you allowed to criticize them? No, because it is a valid position. It may not be the strongest, it may not be what you like, but in so long as it is a valid position, even if it is a weaker position, then it is permissible. And you are not allowed to narrow, constrain that which Allah has made, what Islam has made broad. What Islam has made broad, it is not up to us to make it small. Okay. All right. All right, now comes the second matter. And all of these, the second matter, which is also classified under hadith number 91, but it is people coming to ask Imam Malik questions. And he is answering those. So even though it is 91, it is a section of it. It is not a hadith. Okay? وسئل مالك أن رجل تيمم لصلاة حضرت ثم حضرت الصلاة أخرى أيتيمم لها أو أم يكفيه تيممه ذلك فقال بل يتيمم لكل صلاة لأن عليه أن يبتغي الماء لكل صلاة فمن ابتغى الماء فلم يجده فإنه يتيمم. Malik was asked whether a man who did tayammum for one prayer should do tayammum when the time of the next prayer came, or whether the first tayammum was enough. He said, no, he does tayammum for every prayer because he has to look for water for every prayer. If he looks for it and does not find it, then he does tayammum. So what is the situation? Zuhur has entered. Okay? You cannot find water, you do tayammum. You do your salat al-dhuhr. Then half an hour later, Asr has entered. You're still in the masjid or wherever you are, wherever it may be. Right? You still have the same tayammum, you haven't broken your tayammum. So what are the things that break your tayammum, by the way? The same that break your wudu. With an addition. With the presence of water. The presence of water and you are able to use it also breaks your tayammum. Okay. Right? So the same things that break your wudu, break your tayammum, in addition to the presence of water and the capacity to use it. All right. So now Asr has entered. Are you permitted to do tayammum straight away, to use the same tayammum? No, you are not. You must first look for water. And then once enough effort has been exercised in that regard, then you are permitted to use tayammum. But you must. And then you would have to renew your tayammum for every salat. Okay? Not for every salat, okay? For every fard salat, yes. And every batch of ibadah. So tayammum permits a person to do the actions of a person with wudu, okay? Such as performing salat, such as reading Quran from the Mus'haf. These things, tayammum is permissible. You can do tayammum for these. So let us say dhuhr enters, okay? And there's no water, and you do tayammum for it. So you want to do your sunnah, you can use that tayammum. And you want to do your fard, you'd use that tayammum. The same tayammum, you don't have to renew it, right? But the next fard, so you use it for that batch of ibadah, okay? For the fard and the sunnah that is around it. You want to read Quran for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, no problem, okay? Quran from the Mus'haf, right? From Mus'haf, you know what a Mus'haf is. It's the Quran itself, the book of the Quran. Not your phones, the Mus'haf. Yeah, so you have to do tayammum for every fard salat, for every entry of the salat times. If you cannot find water, you must search for water. And if you do not find it, then you are... Allahumma salli ala sayyidina. Sorry, getting tired now. Then you are valid to use tayammum. Okay. Where does the evidence for this come from? And that is فيما أخرجه Imam Ahmad الترمذي وأبو داود أن أبي ذر قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الصعيد الطيب طهور المسلم وإن لم يجد الماء 10 سنين. That verily that which is pure on the earth is the substance for the wudu of a Muslim. That means for tayammum. if they have not found water, even if it is a duration of 10 years. Let's say 10 years you cannot find water. Then you can use tayammum for 10 years, no problem. فَإِذَا وَجَدَ الْمَاءِ فَلْيُمِسُّهُ بَشَرَتَهُ فَإِنَّ ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ. فَإِنَّ ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ. Yeah. However, once a person finds water, then they should wipe their body, their skin with it, for verily that is good, meaning, in this case, for verily that is obligatory. Okay? Meaning that, why is it that when you find water, you must then use it for your tahara, for your wudu? Why? Because, as we have mentioned previously, tayammum doesn't remove the state of hadath. It doesn't remove your state of impurity. The impurity is impurity. You have broken your wudu, you have gone to the toilet, for example, you have gone to the bathroom. You no longer have wudu. Tayammum doesn't rectify that and put you into a pure state. It does not. What it does is that it allows you to perform those acts requiring tahara. There's a difference. Okay? So as soon as you find water, then you must use that water to enter into a state of tahara now. Yeah? All right. Now, where does this also come from? It also comes from the verse of wudu and tayammum. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم. All those, every time you want to come to salat, then do your wudu, right? And then if you are unable to, then you do your tayammum, yeah? So this verse, the apparent meaning is that every time you want to pray, right, you have to do wudu. That's what it means. Every single time you want to pray, you have to do wudu. I still have fard here, referring to fard. But we know that the meaning is that you must be in a state of wudu, a state of tahara. That is the meaning. But that meaning is not derived from this verse. That meaning is based on external evidence that qualifies the situation, that then provides greater clarity to the state. So it's not inherent in the verse, it is inherent from the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that is, for example, in what is reported by Ibn Burayda and Abihi Burayda radiyallahu anhum. قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يتوضأ لكل صلاة. That the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do wudu for every salat, for every fard salat. Okay, so like I said, there's a batch for every fard salat. فلما كان يوم الفتح صلى الصلوات بوضوء واحد فقال له عمر فعلت شيئا لم تكن تفعله فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم عمدا فعلته يا عمر. So Burayda radiallahu anhu says that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to make wudu for every salat, every fard salat. When it was the day of the conquest of Mecca, he performed all his salawat, his fara'id, with one wudu. One wudu. The same wudu he maintained for the whole day, and he did the same. He never renewed his wudu because he never broke it. He did the same wudu he used for all 5 prayers. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu says, Ya Rasulullah, this is the first time you have done, this is an action that you have not done before. Right? Because he used to do it he used to do his wudu for every fard salat. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam replies, I did so intentionally, O Umar ibn al-Khattab. He did it to teach, to exemplify that it is permissible to pray with the one wudu, as long as you have wudu, for multiple salats. So this evidence is what is then directs the meaning of the verse of wudu to then entail that tahara is required, wudu is required, and it extends to multiple salats. However, This was not the case for tayammum. It was not the case. So tayammum remains according to the hukum of the verse that if you do not find water, then you are permitted to do tayammum, but that is for every salat. Yeah, do you guys understand now? Right? Is it clear? Any questions? All right. Okay, that comes next. Okay, we stop there, inshallah. We'll stop there. There's more to do. There's more to go, such as if a person has tayammum and he's the imam, is it permitted for them to be imam? And the ma'mum has wudu, right? Ma'i, wudu from water, which is permitted, number one. And number two, let us say it is the time of salat, the dhuhr time again, that you do tayammum, and then later, in the same time, you find water. What do you do? Okay? You have already started your salat. Let's say you already started your salat with tayammum. And then somebody comes while you're in prayer and there's water, right? Or directly after you have water, what do you do? We will cover that, inshallah, next week. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this majlis. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to let anyone depart except that they have been forgiven and except that their anxieties and concerns have been alleviated and their desire and what they are asking for and desire have been granted. Allahumma ja'al jam'ana hadha jam'an marhuma wa tafarruqana min ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'suma wa la taj'al fina wa la minna wa la ma'ana shaqiyan wa la mahruma. Allahumma ihdina wa ihdi bina wa ja'alna sababan liman ihtada wa salli wa sallim ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. سبحانك رب العزة سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
الله ربي والإسلام ديني ومحمدا رسول الله